We continue now at the top of Daf Samech Amud Beis in Meseches Nazir. This is Nazir Daf 60b. The Gemara is talking about what the Nazir brings in a situation where the Nazir was a suffix, whether he was a confirmed Mitzorah, and also a suffix, whether he was Tamei Meis. So it says he has to go through 4 shavings, and that last shaving, that last time he's bringing the karbonos, what does he do? He brings this carbon ola, and he says, the ivadai Nazirhu, if he certainly was a Nazir, so ola harishona chova v'zunadava. So that first ola that he brought, that's for his obligation as a Nazir tar, and this will just be a donation. And Rashi explains it means as follows: V'im vadai Nazir haya mitchila. If originally he was a Nazir from the beginning, v'lo muchlet v'lo tamei. The Gemara means to say, let's say he was a Nazir but not a Mitzorah, and he was not tamei. So then hare ola rishona chova. So then that first ola that he brought by the first shaving, that's for his obligation for the concluding karbonos of Nazirus. V'zunadav, and this one that he's bringing now is just a donation. V'chein kulan, and that's true of all of the rest of them, chutz min harishon, except for the first one. The first one will be for the obligation of Nazirus. However, v'im tamei umuchletu, let's say he was a Nazir and he was tamei and he was a confirmed Mitzorah, so then it's the other way around. Ola harishona nadava, the first ola is going to be a donation. V'zuchov, and the one he's bringing now at the conclusion, that's going to be for the concluding obligations of a Nazir tar. V'zeh shar karbona, and then he brings the rest of the karbonos that he needs to bring at the conclusion of his Nazirus b'tahara. And the Gemara continues, tamei safek umuchlet vade. Let's say you have a situation of a Nazir, and it's a doubt whether he became tamei meis, but he certainly became a confirmed Mitzorah. So in that situation, ochel bekachim la'achar shmona yamim, he'll be able to eat kachim, take care of the Mitzorah after just 8 days. V'shosa yayin u'metamei l'meisim, and he'll be able to drink wine and become tamei meis, meaning he will no longer be a Mitzorah la'achar shishim v'shiva yamim. That's going to take after 67 days. Then again, he will no longer be a Nazir. He'll be able to drink wine and be tamei meis. Muchlat safek v'tamei vade. Let's say you have a situation of a Nazir who is a doubt whether he's a Mitzorah, but it's certain that he is tamei meis. So in that case, says the Gemara, ochel bekachim la'achar shloshim v'shiva yamim. He'll be able to eat kachim, meaning he'll take care of the tzaras. That will be after 37 days. V'shosa yayin u'metamei l'meisim. He'll be able to drink wine and become tamei meis. He'll take care of the Nazirus la'achar shivim v'yarba yamim, after 74 days. Tamei vadai umuchlet vadai. Finally, the Gemara says, let's say he certainly was tamei meis and he certainly was a Mitzorah. So in that situation, ochel bekachim la'achar shmona yamim, he'll be able to eat kachim after 8 days. That's when the tzaras will be taken care of. V'shosa yayin u'metamei l'meisim, and he'll be able to drink wine and be tamei meis. He will no longer be a Nazir la'achar arboim ve'arba yamim, after 44 days. And Rashi explains, Vim tamei safek umuchlet vada, if he's a doubt whether he's tameis, but he's certainly a Mitzorah. B'yom rishon shal nazirus. So again, let's assume it's the very first day of the Nazirus that he has this doubt of being tamei, and he's certainly a Mitzorah. So then it said, ochel bekachim la'achar ches yamim, he can eat kachim after 8 days. She teglachas shniya shal yimei svara, because that's how you take care of Mitzorah. He's certainly a Mitzorah. You have a shaving the first day, and then you have the counting days of 7 days, and then a second shaving. Shebetchilas yom rishon shal yimei naziruso shetachil lemei chiluto yimegaleach teglachas chiluto. Again, he does that first shaving on that very first day. Ulesof zayin teglachas hasheni shal yimei svara. Then after 7 days, he's going to do the second shaving of Mitzorah kedechsiv uvayamash v'yigaleach ulemachar shel yom ches yavi karbana. The next day, which is the 8th day, he brings his carbon kedechsiv v'yom ches v'gomer v'yochel b'kachim. At that point, he can eat kachim. Keshehevi kaparasa, when he's brought his kapara, he's taken care of the tzaras. Kedetanan sheteglachas hanegad dochel teglachas hanazir. And the point over here is, like the Mishnah says, that when you have a situation where he's for sure a Mitzorah, so he's allowed to shave, even though a Nazir is generally not allowed to shave. Bisman shuvada, because we're talking about a situation where he's a Mitzorah vada, so it's docha. V'kevan shevi karban sarat ochel b'kachim. And then since he brought the karbanos for his saras, he can now eat kachim. He's no longer a Mitzorah. Avolishtos yain v'litami l'meisim. But when it comes to drinking wine and to becoming tamei meis, eno yachol ad lachar samich zayin yam, and that he has to wait 67 days. Shimbolo legaleach nazirus tahara la'achar she'asa shloshim, because if he's going to wait now 30 days and he says, I want to shave and bring my concluding karbonos for a pure Nazirus, achar zayin yimei svaro, after those 7 days of counting for the Mitzorah, yesh lo lomar shema muchlet v'tamei haya. Then we say, no, maybe you were actually a Nazir tamei, v'tiglachas rishona also lo limei svaro. And that first shaving, that counts for the days of counting for the Mitzorah. V'zu shal achshav limei tumah. So maybe what's happening now is actually the one for the days of tumah, for the fact that you're a Nazir tamei. V'adayin sarach lim nos lo shloshim yom. He's going to need now another 30 days l'naziris taharaso for his pure naziris. Shein bechlal samech zayin yomim. That's going to be a total of 67 days. V'yachach mutter lishtos b'yayin. And only after that will he be able to drink wine, because again you have those first days, those 7 days for the mitzora. Then you have to have 30 days where you're taking care of the naziris b'tumah, and then you have another 30 days where you're taking care of the naziris b'tahara. And then the Gemara said, muchlet safik v'tamei vade. Let's say you have a situation where there's a doubt if he's a mitzora, but he's certainly a tamei meis. So ochel b'kachim lachar lamed zayin. So in that case, he can eat kachim after 37 days. V'shosa b'yayin and v'tamei lemeisim lachar ayin daled. And he can drink wine and become tamei meis. That's after 74 days. And Rashi explains, the kevan shu tamei vade megalech l'sof shiva. Since we know for sure he's tamei meis, so he can already shave after 7 days. Umaschil umon shloshim, and then he can count 30 days. Umegaleach naziris tahara, and then he wants to come and shave the naziris of purity. Uchshabalo lishtos biyayin, but then when he wants to drink wine, he says, I've concluded my naziris. Omrim, so that's when we say to him, Shema muchlat v'tamei hayisa. Maybe you were both. Maybe you were also a mitzora in addition to being tamei meis. Ushtei taglachios halalu heinen shal yemei chiluto, and therefore the two shavings that you've done are really for the shavings of mitzora v'shal yemei sfaro, the first shaving of mitzora and the second shaving of mitzora. V'adayin iyata mutter ela b'achilas kachim. So maybe you've only taken care of mitzora. You're only mutter in terms of eating kachim. Dahainu la'achar lamed zayin, meaning to say that's after the 37 days. Maybe all that is mutter is the kachim. V'chozru mona shiva, so he has to count now another 7 days l'teglachas tumah to actually take care of the shaving of tamei meis. V'yachar kach shloshim l'naziris tara, then it's going to be another 30 days for the pure naziris. V'nimsa shosav yayin u'metamei lemeisim lachar ayin daled yom. That's why it comes out that he drinks wine and he can become tamei meis after 74 days. And then the Gemara said, Tamei vade umuchlet vade, in a case where we know he's Tamei meis, and we know he's a mitzora, so megalech l'teglachas rishona shel tzaras achshav u'mikan ad zayin yomim. It's going to take the first shaving and the second shaving, that's 7 days for the tzaras, l'teglachas shnia, that second shaving is after 7 days, k'detanan sheteglachas hanega dochel l'teglachas hanazir, bizman shuvada, like we said, you're allowed to shave for tzaras, in a situation where he's a nazir, if we know for sure that he has tzaras, v'yochel b'yom ches, then he can eat on the 8th day, maybe karbonis, when he brings the karbonis, B'kodesh v'chozer mona shiva megalech nazir tumah. Now he does another 7 days for the naziris of tumah. V'chozer mona shloshim, and then he does finally 30 days for the naziris, so megalech naziris tahara for the pure naziris. Nimsa shos v'yayin v'tamel amesim leachar arboim v'arboy yamim. It comes out that his naziris is done, and he can drink wine and become tamei meis after 44 days, because again you have 7 and 7, that's 14 days, plus you have the 30 days of the naziris b'tahara, that is 44 days. And the Gemara continues with a Tosefta. Shalu Talmidav es Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. The students of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai asked him the following question: Nazir taru mitzora maushi yagalach teglachas achas v'yola lo lakan lakan. What would be the halacha? Let's say you have an individual who is both a nazir that is pure and he's also a mitzora. So can he do one shaving and it should count for both? It should count for the shaving at the conclusion of his. It can also count for the shaving that's required by mitzora. So Amar Lahen, so he said to them, Eino Megalech, he can't do one shaving for both. Amru Lo, they said to him, Lama, why is that the case? Why can't he? Amar Lahen, he said to them, Ilu Zelagadil Vizelagadil, if this shaving was in order to grow hair and the other shaving was also in order to grow hair, or Vizelahavir, or let's say this one was in order to remove hair and this one was in order to remove hair, meaning the function was the same of each, so then Yafa Atam Omrim, then what you're saying would be correct. But now that's not the case. Nazir lahavir, by a nazir, the reason why the nazir is shaving is to remove the hair. Mitzora lagadil, and the mitzora is shaving. There are 2 shavings of a mitzora. The first one is in order to grow the hair, and he waits 7 days and then shaves a second time. So that first shaving of mitzora is in order to grow hair, and so therefore it's not going to be effective. You can't do one shaving for both if they have a different function. But the Gemara continues, V'lo salaloli me chiluto, v'salaloli me sifro. So fine, let us say that the days when he's a confirmed mitzora, meaning that first shaving of mitzora, so that one is in order to grow hair, so that you can't do together with the shaving that is done at the conclusion of a pure naziris. But let's say the shaving that is done by mitzora after the days of his counting, which really is the same as the shaving at the conclusion of a naziris, they're both to remove the hair, so maybe one shaving should be sufficient. In that situation, And to that the Gemara says, V'yamar lahen, he said to them with regards to that argument, Ilu zelef nezrikas damim v'zelef nezrikas damim. If both of the shavings, this one was before the sprinkling of the blood, and the other one was before the sprinkling of the blood, so again, Yafatam Omrim, what you're saying would be correct. Ela mitzora lifnei zrikas damim, but they're different, because by mitzora the shaving happens before the sprinkling of the blood. V'nazir la'achar zrikas damim, by the nazir the shaving happens after the sprinkling of the blood. But they continued, V'lo salilo li meitzarato u'naziruso, fine. Let it be that you can't do one shaving for both the tzaras and the nazirus. However, v'talilo li meitzarato v'tumaso. Maybe one shaving would be good for, let's say you have an impure nazir, and also you have a situation of tzaras. For that, you should be able to do one shaving. And to that, Amar Laheni said to them with regards to that argument, Ilu zelifnei biasmayim, v'zelifnei biasmayim, if both of the shavings would take place before they actually immerse themselves in the waters, so then yafa atem omrim, so then you'd be saying correctly. Elatame, however, when it comes to a nazir tame, liachar biasmayim, first he goes into the water to purify himself, and then he shaves. And by mitzora lifnei biasmayim, by mitzora, he actually shaves before he goes into the water to purify himself, and therefore again you can't have one shaving for both. And the Gemara continues with a slightly different version of the above discussion. Amru lo, they said to him, Yafa Amrit, you say correctly, Shalo ta'ala lo li me sifro ulin ziruso, that you can't have one shaving for the second shaving of mitzora and the shaving of a nazirus. However, v'ta'ala lo li me chiluto v'tumaso, but why can't you have one shaving for the first shaving of the mitzora and the shaving that the nazir does when he's a nazir tameh, the zela gadol v'zela gadol, who that both of those shavings, the purpose is to then grow hair and shave again. Amar lahen, so he said to them, Nazir tahor v'hu mitzora, when it comes to a nazir who's pure, and you have a situation where he's a mitzora, so zela gadol v'zela haver, as we said, when it comes to the mitzora, the shaving is in order to grow the hair. When it comes to the nazir tahor, the shaving is to remove the hair. V'im nazir tameh v'hu mitzora, and if he's a nazir tameh, he's an impure nazir, and he's a mitzora, so then you'll say it's both legadol, but there's a different distinction. Zel lifnei biasmayim, like we said above, this one takes place before he immerses in the water. V'zel liachar biasmayim, and the other one is after he immerses in the water, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Samech Aleph Amud Aleph.